All right, guys. So once again, we have another example of how the so-called progressive left actually really is the regressive left, okay? Because they are trying to regress us back to segregation, which is something that I thought that we were trying to get away from, but it seems like that's something that they actually really want. They want to try to get away from white people really badly, except they don't want to actually leave white countries and go to places where there are not a lot of white people. They don't want to do that. They just want to essentially get away from white people in white countries, right? Which is pretty funny to think about. You know, I mean, to me, you would think that since these people want to be segregated from whites, that they would just leave, right? They would go to a country where there's no white people and do their own thing, right? But they really don't want to do that, okay? And that brings me to this guy right here, Mr. Jeremy O'Harris, who's a playwright and actor. He has done a couple projects for HBO Max, Netflix. And this guy, even though he is American, I believe, at least he grew up in America, and he is a part of Hollywood, he's getting a lot of controversy in the UK. He's actually being accused of racism, even by the woke UK government, okay, as he announced for his plays, his theater plays, that he was going to do black-only nights that were free from the white gaze, aka only black people can come, and we don't want white people here, right? He's openly saying, we want to invite only black folks. We don't want white people to come, okay? This is what he is doing in the UK, and he's faced a lot of criticism from the government for doing that. The Prime Minister of the UK actually spoke out against this. And now he is in this interview with the BBC. Haha, BBC, right? And he is explaining why racism is okay, right? That's essentially what he's doing, right? He's explaining why segregation is okay and why the black-only nights or the blackout nights are totally fine, totally okay, despite the fact that I thought we weren't supposed to be doing this, okay? Why is it okay to have these black-only nights for his slave plays, right? Because that is what his plays are about slavery, because these people don't know how to actually make any type of content about anything except slavery. They want to relive slavery so bad. So they want to go back to segregation, and apparently they want to go back to being slaves again, right? Really badly. I think the psychology of the modern day race hustler should be studied, because it is probably one of the most interesting phenomena of our times, okay? I'm so serious. So without further ado, let's get into it.
No one is saying that by inviting black audiences here, you were uninvited.
On Broadway, there were nights where tickets were only sold to people who identified as black. Are you going to do that in the West End?
I'm so excited to, yeah.
You are?
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the things that we have to remember is that people have to be radically invited into a space to know that they belong there.
And is that true? Right? Is that actually true? Do you have to be radically invited into a space? First of all, what does that mean, right? Why do these people come up with these phrases that, to me, I mean, I don't understand. Like, what is it? Like, what does that mean? What is a radical invitation, right? Is it radical because you're saying that, well, we only want black people to come here? Okay, is that what makes it radical? I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I don't think that that's true, right? I don't think that you have to be radically invited into a space to know that you belong in a space or to feel comfortable in a space. I think generally speaking, when you're talking about going to see a play or a movie or, you know, some type of performance or some type of art, the people that are invited are the people that are interested in coming and that are willing to pay to go, right? I mean, I'm just saying, like, you know, I've never walked into a space where I'm paying for entertainment and said, well, I don't think I'm invited here because they didn't say black people are welcome, right? No, I feel like if I pay, then yeah, I mean, I'm invited. I'm welcome into the space because I paid, okay? And, you know, I'm here and I'm here to enjoy the performance or the art or whatever. Again, these people, they make life so much more complicated than it really is, okay? But again, that's key to their hustle, right? That's key to their grift. You know, it is what it is.
And in most of our country, in most places in the West, poor people and black people have been told that they do not belong inside of the theater.
Wait, when have black people ever been told they don't belong inside of a theater, right? As, I don't know, an audience member or an actor? Again, I'm not sure if that's happening in 2024, okay? That might have happened back in the day, But is that really happening in 2024? Okay, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are some examples out there of black people being disinvited. Hey, you're not welcome to pay for a ticket to come see my show, which in my opinion, I think is bad capitalism, right? I think it's terrible capitalism, okay? If I am a modern day capitalist, being a segregationist is not a good business model, right? You probably want to be as inclusive as you can when it comes to allowing people to buy tickets and to come see your, content or whatever type of production that you are putting on for an audience, because that's how you're going to make the most money. Unless, I will say there's a caveat here, right? Unless, you have a certain demographic that you allow to buy tickets, and then they come and they see the play and then they become troublemakers, right? You become troublemakers and you disincentivize other people from coming to see the play. Now, again, that goes against the capitalist motivations. So I would say in that scenario, if you have a business that is not making black people feel welcome, it's not because they're black. It's because you have a group of people who happen to be black, who have caused trouble in the past, and that has created an environment where a business owner says, hey, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, we don't want these people attending our event. But again, it doesn't really have anything to do with skin color as much as it has to do with behavior. Again, that's a concept that the woke revolutionaries can't really grasp. So if there are places that, are basically going against basic capitalistic motivations, which is to have, groups of people from all across the board, as many people as you can, come to their theater or to see the performance, if they're going against that, if they're actually trying to not make black people feel invited, it's probably not because they're black. It's probably more so because the people that tend to show up and they happen to be black, they may be causing some problems, right? They may be troublemakers that are causing the theater to lose money in the long run. That's the only scenario I can think of in which you have a business owner say, well, we don't want these groups of people coming and watching our performance, right? The only reason they would say that is because they hurt the bottom line, right? But it's not because they're black. It's not necessarily because of their skin color. It's more about the behavior. But there's ways to weed those people out without having to overtly discriminate against skin color, right? Like, for example, a dress code, okay? A dress code is a good way to weed out the astronauts, right? The young scholars that come to these theaters and cause issues and trouble. So again, I'm not even sure how much of this is actually really happening in 2024 in regards to overt racial discrimination against blacks, where you have a theater overtly say no blacks allowed, right? In fact, I don't think that there's any examples of that, but maybe this guy will give us an example since he's an expert on this. However, I highly doubt it.
America, Jim Crow existed to literally tell them that they could not sit in the same theater as white people.
Yeah, so when you don't have a modern day example, what you do is that you go back all the way to Jim Crow, right? You say, well, Jim Crow existed for this very reason. Okay, but what about today? Okay, we understand Jim Crow, but what about today? They don't have any real examples of this happening today because it's not happening. And that's why they have to go all the way back to Jim Crow.
And so for me, as someone who wants and yearns for black and brown people to be in the theater, who comes from a working class environment, and so wants like people who do not make, over six figures a year to feel like theater is a place for them, it is a necessity to radically invite them in with initiatives that say you're invited, specifically you.
Right. And if the price of that is saying to people who are, just because they're white, you can't come, you're not allowed in this space, does that make you uncomfortable?
Well, no one's saying, listen, there are a litany of places in our country, in all of our countries, that are generally inhabited by only white people.
Yeah, but again, there is no sign that says whites only. Okay, that's the difference here. Okay, you are overtly saying blacks only, right? We only want blacks. And you're also discouraging whites from coming, okay? Because you're telling black people to come to get away from white people. That is how you're actively advertising this. And look, here's the thing. It really doesn't hurt me that much that this guy is saying we only want blacks, no whites. I think from my perspective, what I have a problem with is the hypocrisy of it, okay? Because from a true libertarian standpoint, if a business wants to do that, if you want to have whites only, hey, it is what it is. I just wanted to be fair for both sides, right? If you're going to have blacks only, okay, cool. Allow white people to have whites only. But if you're not going to allow white people to have whites only, which we don't, right? And if you are somebody that comes out and says, hey, we only want white people to come to our play or to come to our theater, you will be criticized heavily. You will be called a racist, okay? So if that's what we're going to do, then we have to do it the other direction as well too. So if somebody like this guy comes out, which he is, and he's saying, hey, blacks only, we don't want whites, then that should be criticized. That should be called out as racism, okay? You can't have your cake and eat it too, right? That's my biggest problem with this. The woke revolutionaries don't want equal rights. They want special rights. They don't want white people to be able to discriminate against them, but they want to be able to discriminate against whites. And we can't allow that. We cannot allow that, okay? Either everybody's allowed to discriminate or nobody's allowed to discriminate. It's really that simple. It's really that simple.
And no one has questions about that. And no one is saying that by inviting black audiences here, you were uninvited. The idea of a...
But that is kind of what you're saying when you are advertising it as black only to get away from the white gaze. That is kind of what you're saying, right? You are discouraging whites from coming. You only want to sell tickets to so-called people of color.
A blackout night is to say, this is a night that we are specifically inviting black people to fill up the space, to feel safe with a lot of other black people in a place where they often do not feel safe.
Okay. And
wow. I'm not sure if I agree with that statement in the sense that as a black person, I'm going to feel safer in a space with all black people more so than in a space where you have white people around, okay? Because I'm telling you, statistically speaking, as a black person, I should be far more concerned about another black person than I should about a white person when it comes to harm being done to me, right? So I'm just saying, I don't necessarily agree with that statement when you talk about safety, but black people are not inherently at risk just because they're in a space with white folks, okay? And this idea that it is dangerous for black people to be around white people is just, it's absurd, right? It's just absurd. Like, there are no facts and evidence to actually back that up, especially from a crime statistic standpoint, right? There's no facts and evidence to back up this idea that black people are unsafe. You're more unsafe as a black person around whites than you are around blacks. It just doesn't make sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. There's no evidence to support that claim.
And does it play differently? Does the theater feel different?
100%. It feels...
In what way? Explain.
I think that, we all... Let's not act as though we do not know that culturally, black audiences and white audiences respond to things differently.
Okay, right? That's fine. But allow white people to do their thing, right? If white people want white-only theaters, white-only audiences, we don't want no blacks, cool. Allow that. But we all know if that's what white people try to do, there'll be outrage, right? There'll be outrage. They'll be upset, okay? But yet they think that this should be allowed. And look, here's the thing. I'm not sure how many white people want to sit around and watch one of this guy's production, one of his woke plays. So you probably don't even have to worry about that many white people buying tickets. Even if you didn't advertise it for black people only, you probably don't have to worry about that many whites coming. But regardless, from a principle perspective, it's not right, okay? You can't have your cake and eat it too. Either we allow discrimination from everybody or we allow no discrimination. That's the way I feel about it. But of course, the woke revolutionaries don't want equal rights. They want special rights. And stories like this is exactly what I'm talking about. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.